surrounded at all times by China imagery. It was the having just come from Sichuan province, where I was unable to go back to the panda reserve because they just had an earthquake, and the panda reserve had been damaged, and there were some problems, so you couldn't actually visit, and that meant my head was filled with pandas. And there is a really weird, cool, lovely thing, which we discovered a couple of days ago because a bookseller in Tennessee, what was it? Someone like Tennessee, if it wasn't Tennessee, sent us this thing saying, "Did you know about this?" And I looked at it and went, "Oh my gosh, I do." Which was a Richard Scarry book that I must have read when I was 5 years old and completely forgotten about a panda who sneezes and winds up having an accident at the end with some eggs. And he was called CHU'S, the sneezing panda. And the lovely thing about that is not only had I completely forgotten that, but I thought, if I'd actually consciously ripped that off, I would have saved myself these 6 weeks that I spent trying to name this damn panda. When I went through, there were so many names, and the panda went, "Choo," and it's a good, okay, yeah, why not? So, anyway, so that must have fed in there into the mix as well. And also, I just wanted to see Adam draw pandas.
I want to see you draw pandas too. And after I got signed on to this thing, they told me Neil has this altar photo, by the way, in which he's holding a baby panda. Can you go do something like that? So luckily, I knew somebody who knew somebody who was a zookeeper, and I have a picture in the back of the book of me getting fresh with some giraffes. That was the best I could do. I originally wanted to have in the same scrubs you were wearing with the same gloves and just cradling my cat. But Margaret Collins wouldn't go for that, so I said giraffes.
Sneezing giraffes, that would be. Okay, let's do one way at the back, and then we'll probably all just start. Yes, you. Yep.
You're an author who transitions very seamlessly between a lot of mediums, whether it's children's books, novels, comics. When you first started off, was there an idea of which one you wanted to write, or were you just like, I need to do as many of these as I can, as fast as I can?
That's a really good question. When I started off writing, I was a journalist. And I got to meet and interview a lot of famous, best-selling, important writers. Because when you're a journalist, you interview these people. And normally not during the interview, but afterwards. When we'd go out for a drink after the interview and stuff was over, you'd be chatting to them. And they would start telling, and these are best-selling, many of these people would be famous to you now. And they would start telling you about books that they'd written that their publishers wouldn't publish, or wouldn't publish unless they published them under a pen name, because they were so different from the thing that the person was famous for. And again, I've got my French Revolution novel, I can't get it published. And I think, that's just wrong. I never want that to happen. And it seemed to me that good writers were people like, I loved the way that Alan Moore would move seamlessly from humor to horror to social stuff to science fiction, and nobody ever seemed to mind, and nobody noticed in Alan's case because it was all comics, but he could do it all, and I thought, I want to be one of these kids. So for me, it's a lot like, somebody who's been locked in accidentally to a sweet shop for the night and just wants to get his hand in as many jars as possible before somebody comes and opens up the sweet shop in the morning. And of course, Adam is a very peculiar beast for an illustrator, because he actually kind of does that too. You write books, and books with words and without pictures, and you do all sorts of stuff, so I'm going to hand that one over to you as well.
Well, I luckily didn't have the problem that your author friends had, and that when I decided I wanted to do a novel, having only done picture books, nobody had any preconceived notion of who I was and what I was supposed to be doing in the first place. So if I wrote a passable novel, then sure, kid, we'll publish that. And, I didn't have some sort of very steady reputation as being just a picture book guy. So I managed to get that out of the way early enough. So now I've hit enough different reading levels and done picture books, and I have one novel that didn't even illustrate at all because it's a YA novel, and I didn't want it to be mistaken for a younger kid's novel. So I think I've gotten out of that out of the way early enough in my career where nobody was really paying attention. So now I'm just kind of allowed to do everything.
I think honestly, for me, being allowed to do everything is the goal, and I think it's the best thing. And I was viewed so suspiciously when I wrote Coraline, and it went over from Harper Adult, who were my publishers, to Harper Children's, and they said, "Oh no, another adult author who thinks he can write a children's book." Whoa! But now I'm accepted, and they've given me the Newbery Medal, which means I'm officially a proper children's author because I have a medal. So it's all good. Okay, last question. You look so wistful. So disappointed when I look. So the question is, what was our favourite book when we were 3, 4, 5, that kind of age?
Yeah, I guess I couldn't tell you exactly that age, but around there, like the monster at the end of this book was a big deal for me. It's like a little kid's postmodern primer. Easily 30 years ahead of its time. And so I loved that book. I remember loving The Bike Lesson, which was a Berenstain Bears, like an early Berenstain Bears book. And like Wild Things, because I always say that. So. Although Wild Things was one of those ones that, like, I don't think I knew I loved it as a kid, but then, at the age of, 19, I saw it again in the bookstore, and I realized it was weak in the knees just looking at the cover. So that's when I realized that it had carved out a little place in my head, but I don't think I had really been aware of that before.
I think when I was 3, it's mostly books that you don't have over here. The Cat in the Hat comes back, was definitely one of my favourite books when I was 3, and that one, for some reason, nobody in my house had The Cat in the Hat. I just had the sequel. And they all go, "Oh my God, that cat's coming back." And I go, "This is the first time I met him. This is weird." But apart from that, it was English ladybird books, mostly. And they did these beautiful books, mostly created, I think, during the 1950s with text on one page and a painting on the other. And the Ladybird, Robin Hood, there was a beautiful Snow White, and I don't think it's any coincidence, like rewriting Snow White. So those are probably, my favorite books. There's one called What to Look For in Autumn, and I just loved it for these incredible paintings of all of the things that you could find in England in autumn. And I kept looking for red squirrels without knowing that they pretty much died out. So still never seen a red squirrel. Terrible, I don't want to end.
The red squirrel is actually like this protected species near Tucson where I live. And it's too bad my wife isn't here right now because she's an astronomer, and the astronomers building telescopes on the mountain are almost personally responsible for the elimination of the red squirrel. So I could have her up here and have her take a bow or something. But I think she's out wandering the city right now.
Okay, well